Today on the newscast, we're on the ground in northern Israel with our good friend Danny the Digger Herman for an up-close look at two of Israel's greatest ever archaeological finds. That's next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. It is Friday, and this has been a very busy news week filled with wars and rumors of war. So, we wanted to close out this week with some positive, encouraging content, in particular, biblical archaeology. Folks, if you watch this newscast on a regular basis, you know that we love biblical history and archaeology, getting on the ground in Israel and other places throughout the Middle East and bringing the Bible to life for you through these amazing archaeological finds. Well, today, we've got perhaps two of Israel's greatest ever, according to experts, archaeological finds. They are both found in northern Israel at an incredible site called Tel Dan. Now, number one, we've got the world's oldest man-made archway dating back some 4,000 years. It is called Abraham's Gate, and you'll see why in a minute. Number two, many revisionist historians over the years have said that King David never existed, that there was no Davidic dynasty. Well, the Tel Dan inscription proves otherwise. It is rock solid archaeological proof for the existence of, yes, the one and only King David. So let's go to Tel Dan right now with the one and only Danny the Digger Herman for an up-close look at two of Israel's greatest ever archaeological finds and proof for the truth of the Bible. Danny, at a site filled with amazing archaeological discoveries, this absolutely stands out. We mentioned Abraham earlier. What is his significance to this very ancient structure that everyone sees before us right now?
Yeah, this is one of the greatest chance discoveries ever made in local archaeology here. It was truly found by chance at the last day of the season of one of the excavations done here in the 1980s. Avram Biran, the head of the expedition, wanted to record the Canaanite fortifications of the Middle Bronze Age. So they made a probe where the wall should have been, and then he asked the guy that was documenting the bricks to make final notes. And he came back to him telling him, Avram, I think it's not just a wall, but there's a beginning of an arch. So they started digging beneath the lowest level that he intended to dig, and it proved indeed to be an archway, a complete archway from the Middle Bronze Age, about 4,000 years old, that later was deliberately buried because they thought it's not secured enough or something.
The Canaanites deliberately buried it, apparently.
The book of Genesis tells us of Abraham chasing the Canaanites all the way to Dan. And Abraham, by most scholars, should be placed in the Middle Bronze Age. So you cannot rule out the possibility, Eric, that Abraham stood and saw this very gate, this very archway. Maybe he stood on this very stairway.
Absolutely amazing, Danny. And this is the original stairway and the original arch.
Yes.
As you said, the oldest complete arch in the world.
In human history, yes. It's also a Guinness record. It's the oldest complete man-made arch ever found. And made out of bricks, it's quite fragile. You know, it could melt in the first rain. They had to plaster it every year before the winter. And now they had to make this big plastic cover over it to protect it so it will be preserved and people will be able to appreciate this.
Yeah, protected from the elements. And Danny, in my mind's eye, I can almost picture Abraham and his team chasing those Canaanites up to this gate where we're standing right now. Abraham very well may have stood here. I don't think that's an exaggeration by any means.
And finds from the time of the Israelites, the kingdom, okay, we have quite a lot. From the time of the patriarchs, that we can relate to one of the patriarchs, that's incredibly rare, and this is one of the famous cases where we have that match.
An impressive structure, Danny, as well. When you said we're going to the gate, Abraham's Gate in Tel Dan, I said, okay, it's going to be a gate these ancient cities, these ancient settlements, they had massive gates, it seems. You really had to, if you wanted to get into that city, you had to go through quite a gauntlet.
Wait till I show you the Iron Age gate complex. It's massive.
Danny, we saved the best for last. And at a site like Tel Dan, that is saying something. Hey, we already saw the oldest man-made arch in human history ever found. We heard about Jeroboam, how he made this a cultic center, tried to drive worship away from Jerusalem. And yet, the final prize that we will discuss today is even greater than those.
Yes, and that was found right here behind that yellow sign. First of all, we are now at the southern edge of Tel Dan, and behind you are these massive walls of the gate complex. This is the best illustration for how big and influential was the Israelite northern kingdom. It had massive walls and a lot of manpower and chariots, as attested both in the Bible and by Assyrian sources. But its main problem is it's in the northern end. So it would be the first to get hit by the Aramaics and later by the Assyrians. And the Bible reflects how both the Aramaics conquered the city once, and Tiglath-Pileser III, who came here in 730s of the 8th century, he was the one to cause such a destruction that the city would never recover again.
2,700 years ago.
No, this area would never be used again. In the area where Jeroboam once had a golden calf, some people in the Hellenistic people will reuse it as a cultic center, but without a city around it anymore.
Yeah.
But back to this site, the gold prize from all the digs here, all of this finds that were made, is what was found close to the wall over there in 1993, an inscription. Now, inscriptions are quite rare because people usually wrote on papyrus and it just doesn't last. When you are in distress, you use a broken piece of pottery. It's called an ostrakon. And then we sometimes have receipts, little indications of minute issues. But behind that yellow sign, we found a big stone engraved stela, meaning an inscribed inscription in a language very similar to Hebrew. It was placed by the Aramaic king after he conquered the city. And his name is not mentioned, but it's quite clear that we're talking about Chazael.
Back to the inscription, which you have said, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the 5 most important archaeological discoveries ever made in Israel. Danny, that's saying something, especially coming from you.
Totally. It should be in the same level as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay?
Tell us about it.
It's just one monument, one inscription. Why so, Eric? Because that king boasts on how he kills both the king of Israel and the king of Judah. But while he describes the king of Israel as Yoram Melech Israel, Yoram, king of Israel, Achaziah, the king of Judah, he doesn't label as king of Judah, but he labels him as Achaziah of the house of David.
King David.
King David. For the first time, we find an inscription from the Iron Age relating to David.
Wow.
That figure, that founder of the Davidic dynasty that Jesus came from, is finally validated in local biblical archaeology that is contemporary, almost contemporary to the time of David. I mean, it's from 150 years later, but it's almost from his very time.
Yeah, you have to figure that David's legend by that time had spread, so not a surprise that they would mention the house of David on this inscription. And Danny, this sends shockwaves, I know, throughout the archaeological world, because shocking as though it may seem, some historians, so-called historians, say there was no King David.
Yes.
The Bible is wrong, there's no evidence for him.
Exactly. Since the 1980s especially, there was a very critical line trying to diminish and refute the even existence of David and Solomon, saying, look, we don't have any evidence, we don't have any mentionings by their enemies of them, so they're just made up. They're just legends made up later by biblical scribes.
Yeah. The Bible's a bunch of fairy tales.
Exactly. And then this was found. It was such a revolution. Those scholars that were so minimalist even accused the archaeologists here of forging it. They just couldn't accept the fact that David could be found in an inscription. But a year later, they found another fragment that matched it and completed the text. Now, we still have about, 25 or 30% of the whole inscription. Maybe more of it is still buried here. Who knows?
Thanks again to our good friend Danny the Digger Herman. As always, folks, if you like that segment and you want to see more like it, be sure to tune in to our weekly Watchman television show on TBN. Hey, we've got the newscast here every day on YouTube, but we also have a 30-minute weekly television show on TBN, the world's largest Christian television network, airing every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and then Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to tune in every single week. We're on the ground in Israel and points beyond throughout the Middle East and throughout the world, bringing you the inside story of all that God is doing in these Bible prophetic times that we are living in right now. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Watchman Newscast. Have a great weekend. Until next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.